All right. Good morning, everyone. Wave meteorologist Brian Good on this second day of Alert Day setup. Hope you guys got some rest. Easier said than done. I know that bolt of thunder, what was it, like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning? Oh, poor Dobie. Poor Dobie. Yeah. Took a while to get him to calm down. Actually, it took us both a while to calm down. I think were cuddling each other. But that was probably some of the loudest thunder I've heard in quite some time. It was just a very active Groundhog Day type of feeling to the weather just never wanting to end last night. As far as the overall setup, just was taking so long to evolve into the next phase. We knew all the different phases that were laid out on how this was going to play out, including for today. And to see that the first phase went through fine, we get to the second phase, and then suddenly everything just got stuck, and then we weren't able to get out of the second one for a long time. And that really was a frustrating setup. And I'm sure it was for a lot of you watching, because you're like, first off, for those of you who are to the south, like, what's the deal? There's no storms. Those of you north are like, okay, when are the storms going to stop? And then some are like, hey, there's a tornado down the street. So it was just a mix of all kinds of emotions there last night, right? So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to do a quick recap on where we stand now. I will mention last night, just to kind of cover that, because there's new information on that I wanted to share. And then we'll get into, obviously, what's going to happen today. And there have already been changes. Even since I woke up this morning, there have been changes to the thinking of how this is going to play out. So a lot to discuss. I see your comments and questions. Roberta, Kate, Olivia, Adam over in Bloomfield. Hello, Shonda. I know you're all on there. All right. As always, I ask for you all, just hang tight with me. Let me try to explain this the best I can, and then I'll circle back around to get to some of your questions if I was not able to answer them in the next few minutes. I think it's easier to do it that way than try to get stuck on answering a bunch of questions before I can show you guys anything, because sometimes what I'm about to show you will answer it for you, right? So let's get right to it. Start rolling on this. All right, let's start with the live look outside at the moment. This is looking from downtown Louisville on top of the Waterfront Plaza, looking to the east toward eastern Jefferson County, toward the malls area. Kind of a hazy looking sky, and there's a reason for that. We had a lot of blue sky in some areas this morning. Some of you may still hold on to that, may have it still north, but for the most part, we have a canopy overcast that is being blown off from severe weather. That is still the same area of thunderstorms we were dealing with last night. The same boundary is still producing severe weather right now, and that's been a good 14, 16 hours now. And it is now blowing off the very tops of those thunderstorms over us. Now, at the same time, look very carefully. You may, if you're holding your phone, you have to get it right up on it. And if you're watching on your computer or TV, you got to get it real close. If you look carefully, you will see there are some cumulus clouds that are starting to develop. Now, that is going to be one of the other issues we'll have to watch today that is a bit separate to what is going to happen across West Kentucky. Okay, so let me start with, first off, rainfall. This is really in the past 24 hours. Some of the gauge reset at midnight, but it was quite the round of rain. Obviously, Indiana along the river took the brunt of that for a while. And then as the storms tried to redevelop and evolve a little more into Kentucky, those totals started to go up at quite the soaking rain. I think I ended up with about 0.6 at my house of rainfall. All right. So last night, this is what the radar looked like, especially in that 9:15 to 9:40 window. We were watching, of course, the thunderstorms that were ongoing. Let me add on the warnings here. Hold on one second. Let me get that on there, because I think it's important for y'all to see that. Hopefully it'll populate. Hold on one second. There we go. All right. So these were the cells we were watching last night that were moving across Indiana. Hold on, let me turn off the other query so you don't get a little bit of a glitch there. I'm editing this on the fly, so you know how this rolls. All right, let's get rid of that. Boom, boom, boom. All right, we're done. We're done. Okay, so this was what we were tracking with the severe weather. But I'll tell you what, just north of our counties, right in Cincinnati, they just got absolutely hammered with such strong winds and very heavy rainfall. It was just nonstop, right, in that area, which arced all the way into Ohio, and then, of course, connected all the way to the Kalamazoo tornado in Michigan that took place. We were watching that. We were watching the cells around the Wabash heading toward Vigo, Indiana, once again, number 2 for them. And then you had these sneaky little cells that were forming. Now, why did these stand out? Well, a couple of things. We knew that the atmosphere had a tough time getting into southern Indiana and Kentucky. What we call lapse rates were not there. You're not exactly moving the air parcel in the atmosphere. If you were to take just a piece of air, it was not moving in the same rate as you were having across Indiana. Therefore, it wasn't as violent of an uptick on thunderstorms, and therefore the coverage was extreme. The downpours in Kentucky, every time they tried to get a tower to them, they were just getting knocked over fairly quick as well, because the shear was so high. But around this time, that is when we started to notice the two different supercells that had formed. And the first one got my attention. Boy, I tell you what, if you guys were watching that one there in Crawford County to move into Harrison County, it was just incredible to see it. From even in Louisville, you were able to see this thing because the sun was setting. There was no other storms around it at the time. And so therefore the bellies of the clouds were lit up, and you saw the baggy clouds, puffy clouds underneath the supercell that were lit up by the sunset. We call those mammatus clouds, and that's a sign of turbulence. So as soon as I saw those, I knew there was, most supercells have them, but especially when you got one that can be producing a tornado, that is one of the signs that really begins to stand out. That and sometimes hail. So seeing that image was already alarming. So we were on the air covering that tornado warning, but then at the same time, we noticed that we started to develop rotation. It actually started very close to Huber's Orchard and Winery. If you were watching last night, that was the first thing I thought of when I saw Starlight, as most people do. We have a camera there. I was looking at the camera. I could see at that point the low-hanging clouds were moving into the area. I couldn't see rotation very well. They only have like a couple lights, I believe, there in the parking lot, so it was hard to tell what was happening. But that is when things began to change, and we ended up with a very strong velocity couplet. In other words, the wind field really tightened up, indicating a rapid tornado had formed. I'm not able to display that. That data has a very time limit restriction onto it, so we're not able to show that. But that was the one that we were watching as it moved across Clark County. So we had two different things happening. We had the cell that was in Floyd County, and then we also had the one that was moving right into Clark County as well. Roughly in about 9:15, 9:20 seems to be about the window that was most common for that. I was looking at the shear markers, which indicates where you're getting rotation. You could see the modeling was picking up the shear moving north of Cordon, but it was not overly strong, and it began to lose it, right? But then this started to catch my eye, especially where it was some of the higher values were showing up, and that is when we got into the point where it was getting right into I-65 in the Bennettsville area to I-65 and Perry Crossing, and that's where they have in Sellersburg. So that's where they have officially ruled that as an EF0. I shouldn't say officially, it's preliminary, but for all intents and purposes, it'll be official because it's a very small damaged area, so it doesn't take long to get that surveyed. Unlike other tornadoes, which cover over multiple counties, that's a challenge. But EF0 winds 85 miles per hour. 8 structures, I believe, were damaged. There were several trees that were knocked over as well. No one was injured. That's good. And then once it got to I-65, it began to lift right back up again. So that's an update on the EF0 tornado last night in the Sellersburg Perry Crossing area. Survey teams have completed that about 30 minutes ago. Okay, so that was the main event really that happened last night, right? So after that, it was really about the showers and storms that worked their way to the south. And this is where they are now. They're now across southern Kentucky. Well, they made a nice little progress, right? Because it took forever to get them to move. But once we got a cold front that was able to push into the area, that was able to get the thunderstorms down into southern Kentucky. But now look at the loop here. A couple things should stand out to you guys, as we've got a little bit of a northern jog on the showers and thunderstorms now trying to show up in West Kentucky, especially. That's the warm front already starting to push northbound. And you're getting the blow off, the high cirrus canopy being blown off the thunderstorms all the way into Louisville. So the clouds you got now, that hazy sky you got right outside your window right now, is actually from thunderstorms down into Tennessee that have been just thrown rapidly in the upper layers of the atmosphere right into Kentucky. And that's why we have that hazy looking sky over us, is because of that. And notice the sun, though, that is still out, a little bit patchy fog, but mainly some sun into Indiana and back into northern Kentucky. That is going to be important to point out here in just a second. Let me widen the view out so you can see, again, where we got those showers and storms, a few warnings out east of Nashville that are ongoing. Now, instead of just a flat line, in fact, if you looked at it when the storms developed into Kentucky, they had a little more of an angle to them. It was like this. Well, now they are developing a little more of a U shape now, as we're already seeing the tug right here on the western side of that, which is the warm front. Why is it getting tugged? Well, there's a low pressure that is now into Kansas City that is attaching itself to, it's going to connect right there, connect to the actual warm front, and now begin to pull it to the northeast toward Cincinnati, Ohio. As that happens, there's going to be multiple things to watch. I'll draw it here, and then I'll show it to you on a visual sense. First off, let's talk about the low. The low itself is going to become basically an MCS, a big complex of storms that is going to race rapidly southeast along where the warm front is. It's going to be a locomotive on the train tracks using that boundary as its guide. It will rapidly move to the southeast. And I'm talking 80-mile-per-hour winds will accompany that later on today, maybe into this evening. But it'll take a bit of heating, but it will dive south and east. As you're about to see, that's why the moderate risk is out, is for that issue really alone that'll happen for tonight. At the same time, yes, the warm front is going to make some northern progression. In fact, it'll go all the way into Ohio. The warm front does, but it may not seem like it because the thunderstorms may not entirely reach up there. They will form, but they will have a much slower push to the north than the warm front will actually make it. So the boundary will get back into Ohio, but the thunderstorms will lag quite a bit behind that, which means they're going to be very slow movers trying to catch up with the warm front as we head throughout the afternoon and evening hours. While we are waiting for that to happen, we were waiting for the thunderstorms to move northeast and try to catch the warm front. The sun is out into this area, so new supercells and thunderstorms will likely start to form along the warm front. So what becomes a very complex storyline gets even more complex. You're going to have an MCS tracking damaging winds and tornadoes from St. Louis into West Kentucky, maybe even Southern Kentucky this afternoon and evening. You're going to have an increase in rain and thunder. I'm not sure we're going to get a lot of severe weather, though, out of the thunderstorms that try to chase the warm front, which would be, for a lot of you watching, that would be the case. And then there'll be another round of isolated supercells that will try to form along the warm front, north and east of that. If there's any of these three scenarios that I'm looking at here that we really would want to be in, it would be up here in New York City. No, I'm just kidding. It would actually be right in between the two ideas, because you don't want to be in this violent ribbon right here out of St. Louis that's going to dive into West Kentucky and Tennessee. You don't want to be in that area. That is going to be by far some of the most damaging weather of the day, and perhaps in the past 24 hours will likely be there. You really don't want to be where these supercells are trying to form, where there is some heating of the day, not as widespread or as violent, but still can cause some problems. I think overall, one of the better spots to be will be closer to us. We may not escape warnings, but it won't be as bad as what our friends and family to the south and west will likely face. That's the overall snapshot of what I've noticed in looking at data this morning of how this looks to play out. Now, let me caution you guys. The weather models have done horrible. They should be put in the room without lunch. All right? They've been bad lately. So what we have to do is we're using them as tools, and that's what they are in general anyway. We know that. They're just tools to help guide us, but we're going to still use these today, these high-res tools, especially in the hourly updates that they do. That's nice. But we've got to just pay attention to this, the flat-out radar, right? Look at what we're getting on data when it comes to heating, where are the high clouds at, where's the sun out, where are the boundaries set up, and kind of just constantly animate the loop as you just saw. We constantly, my whole life, I feel like I'm just animating in a loop, about a 3-hour loop, just animating in a loop and try to get a trend out of that and see where we're going. We're going to be doing that all day today. And I got a feeling we're going to keep making adjustments. If something is off track, we should start to see that get out of the box of the norm here, and then we'll be able to adjust to that. But as of now, that's the way it is looking. So here's the HRRR model that's just updated right before you guys get the notification on the Wave Weather app. So here we go. Between now and noon and now and 2 o'clock, there's not a lot happening out there. It's going to be quiet. So if you have errands to run, if you're worried about schools and such, this delayed with the cloud canopy overtaking the area is going to keep things. It's going to keep things quiet for us, which is good. So that buys us some time to get some things done here for the next few hours. I'd say roughly the next 3 or 4 hours or so, maybe 4 hours, we may be in good shape. And then eventually, though, the storms are going to get pulled to the north and east, but you're going to notice that they're not going to look as ugly as what is happening here in Southwest Kentucky. Now, I'm speaking to 33 counties in our area. It is worth mentioning, if you're in Grayson County and in Dare County, Hart County, LaRue, I want you guys to pay careful attention because you are a little too close for comfort on being close to that more violent area of severe weather that rolls out of Missouri. You're going to be awful close to that. So we need to watch you all. Everyone else, I don't see much of a violent nature to these thunderstorms, but there could be a few cases of hail. There could be cases of some heavy rainfall. And then we get into tonight, most of the action, let me widen the radar out. Most of the action at this point is already shifted. Look at Tennessee. Look at that nasty that is. That's what will take over as the main show. By doing that, the air actually is rain cooled air and sinking air as well. That calms us down dramatically once we get into the evening hours. There is another wave that tries to form. I'm highly suspect of whether or not that will be able to happen or not, because if it does, it'll try to move back into the same spots it just got hit again. I don't know if they'll have enough recovery time, but it's possible. They could get hit twice across Missouri, West Kentucky, Tennessee, especially Tennessee, and perhaps grazing some of our counties. Again, Grayson, Adair, just be extra weather aware as that takes over. But because this is going to be such a horizontal look to this setup, it is going to really yank out a lot of the energy that's going to be found further to the north. So this overall storyline is unfolding to where, yes, we still have a chance at some severe weather this afternoon as the warm front surges north. Some of those cells could be strong to severe, but the duration of us being in that zone, in the severe danger zone, is starting to shrink more and more and more. And all the focus will shift across areas of the Tennessee Valley. Okay, so that's where we look now. Here is the storm prediction outlook. I don't know why that didn't load. Let me try it again. There we go. There's the risk levels. They had actually the enhanced all the way up through Cincinnati. They dropped it down to where half of Louisville is in slight, half is enhanced. So it's improvement. But the moderate risk, you could see the concern of that belt that, again, that drops down. That's our concern is going to be that belt of the constant MCSs and that storm zone for damaging winds and tornadoes is going to be right there. But certainly we need to keep an eye on our counties near the parkways too. You get into Louisville, it's really going to be just the cells that move in. And then once you get north and east of Louisville, other than the few isolated smaller supercells that try to form where the sun is out later this afternoon, you're in a slight risk and then it drops off to a marginal. So this has improved quite a bit compared to what it looked like yesterday. And this isn't shocking because we knew that everything being off track yesterday. Well, that has to mean that something's going to be different for us, right? And one of the discussions that Kevin and Ryan and I had last night was, there's going to be a blow off. I mean, we're going to get thunderstorms blowing a canopy over us, and that is going to have a profound impact, and I think it will. Tornado potential, it's still hatched for the areas near the warm front. Warm fronts are notorious for tornadoes, so you really just can't erase that out. I'm hoping that will go away in the new update, which is at 12:30 today. I'm hoping that will come out of play, and then it drops off dramatically after that. Your straight line wind potential, and again, that's where I'm talking about 80-mile-per-hour winds that will be racing with those MCSs. Absolutely need to watch out some of that. It gets kind of a wiggle look to it initially, almost like the letter S, the letter S on the keyboard. It gets that kind of shape to it. So there is potential that some of that could easily build into parts of Kentucky there. So that's why they have that area hatched. Makes sense right now. We'll see if that's still the case in the next update, if that needs to be in place still, or we can move that as well further to the south. And we don't have that high of a threat to the north. And your hail potential, same ordeal. You're going to get larger hail down to the south and west along the warm front. Not as much of a threat off to the north. I think our biggest concern we're going to have is because we had so much rain last night, is that as the warm front tries to pull into the area today, any rounds of showers and storms is going to easily lead to flooding issues. Again, hydroplaning, creeks and streams are going to be out of their banks, and we'll get a rivers update. I think it's around 11:30 today. We should have an update on how the area rivers are handling this, and any flood warnings or anything like that that needs to come out for that idea. So here's the overall storm chance as it looks now. We'll go with an increase. I really don't think we'll see much happening in the short term. I think this may end up being 0, frankly. But once we get into this afternoon, the warm front moves in. That's when we need to watch for some scattered showers and storms. It could be strong, if not severe. All right. So we need to watch that. And then I think once we get past the 10 o'clock hour, I may be able to take these red bars out completely and taper the rain chance down. So there you go. That is how day number 2 is stacking up. So I'm going to start with the most recent question and work my way backwards here. So bear with me on this. Ben, based on the data, do you think Louisville should be shifted into the slight category? Until I know a little more about how far north that warm front will go, I don't want to make any assumptions on that. But if the trend is to keep that held a little more and focused into West Kentucky, then absolutely yes, you will see that get shifted down another category. Jared, if the warm front's already moving north, would that push the moderate and everything north? No, that's not how that works, and that's a very good question. And let me explain why that's the case. I'm trying to get back to a radar here. I have so many screens today. Okay, there we go. There's a radar. All right, let me show you this. The reason for that is that you have to remember that yesterday we talked about how the Gulf of Mexico, well, that's still on the right radar. Hold on, I'll get to it. There we go. You have to remember that the Gulf of Mexico is our moisture source, right? Yesterday, all the storms were up here. So we had, basically free reign to get a flow of moisture up I-65 feeding into these storms. And it certainly did that to every single one of them that continued to move south into Kentucky for the loud round of thunder we had last night. They kept feeding it, right? Well, once this MCS and this front really becomes active here this afternoon, now there becomes a block. And the storm motion is southeast, not northeast. So even though the warm front, and it will continue to detach, it'll keep moving into Cincinnati and to Ohio. That's why there's going to be isolated cells along it. But as far as your bigger thunderstorms, there's so many of them heading southbound. They act as a shield almost, and they just prevent anything from trying to build northeast. Instead, the opposite happens. They build more south. So in a mindset, when you're thinking of a warm front moving in, you think everything comes with it. But in this scenario, it's actually the opposite. The worse the storms will be more heading south, not to the northeast. But a very good question because, again, you're kind of going against the brain there on logic on that. Let's see. Audrey, closer to 6 p.m. roughly. It's going to be staggered. It's not a line of storms per se with a very sharp edge to it. It's going to be very staggered and blotchy. So the times will vary a bit. And I'm not sure all of them will be severe either that move in. But if there's going to be a window that we're talking about, it would be near that. Let's see. Nathan, it's out of here by 10. Most of it should be out of here by 10. As far as anything really nasty, it's all going to be a Tennessee, West Kentucky, Missouri show at that point. I don't see it being a problem here. Let's see. Jennifer, I'll get back to when I'm done with the video will automatically replay on social media. We are on Twitch, by the way. If you're on Twitch, I got the VODs turned on. So if you are a big gamer and you watch Twitch a lot, you go to Wave News. The video I'm doing now is live right now, streaming. I'm on live on Twitch, but when I'm done, the VOD will be there too if you need to watch it back. If you want to continue your gaming, you can do just that. All right. Shane, stuff gets hyped up all the time, then nothing ever happens. Today will be no different than yesterday. Nothing but sunshine here. Well, unfortunately, Shane, that's not true. You're entitled to your own opinion, but that's simply not true. I mean, we had it's actually 2 tornadoes. EF1 is what the rating is, but it's 2 different funnels. But 8 people right now are trying to get their homes fixed up. It was scary moments for them, I'm sure. There was a lot of folks that we definitely lucked out on it, but this atmosphere is absolutely prime for significant weather. You just don't get to that complacent feeling where it's all about hype and ratings. If you've known me long enough, and I hope you have, or you've known Wave long enough, then you just know that's simply not the case. And I personally am not going to get into any more discussion on it. You will know. You should know. I'll leave it at that. All right. Michaela, is the Bardstown part of that zone? A wait and see, could go either way. I think you're going to be part of the warm front, showers and storms. You will get active. I don't see you being right now into the more violent storms that are being far west Kentucky into Tennessee, Michaela. But I do think you will be back into the zone of warnings. And I think overall, again, everything I painted out into the red on any warning potential. If we're going to get warnings today in our area, the window that we're looking at is going to be roughly into that late afternoon through about sunset, maybe an hour after sunset, maybe. And then we'll be able to get rid of that. And again, those last two bars, we should be able to take those down from there. Okay. Sounds fair enough. All right, guys, I hate to run, but I have got to get ready for the next run of data that's coming in right now. It started about 10 minutes ago, actually. So I need to look at that so I can get ready for the midday show. So if you're watching midday, I'll have more there. And just stay with us. We'll just keep you guys updated as this evolves this afternoon. I hope that we can get these categories reduced. I feel for our friends into Missouri, West Kentucky, down in Tennessee, because they are going to get rocked today. I feel for them. I don't want them to be under the gun either like that. But we will at least, it doesn't look to be as bad as what it did even a couple of days or even yesterday for this this type of setup. So that is a plus. We'll take our blessings on that one. All right, I'm gonna leave it at that for now, and I will be on the air for the shows today, but then I will not be on the air for a few days. So I will see you guys a little bit later into the month of May. All right, take care, guys.